Cool. Okay. All right. All right, here we go. Let's get this on the road here. Everybody back in their seats. I just want to give another thank you to the staff here that's been working diligently all day. Man, these guys don't take a break. Want to say thanks to all of our speakers and, of course, all of you, everybody that's here and everybody watching on the live stream. Thank you so much. This has been great. Now, this guy, I've had the opportunity to speak to him and get to know him, and I can honestly say I've learned a lot from him, and we've become very good friends as far as that goes. I mean, we may not talk all the time, but when we do, it's like we've known each other forever, man.
Yeah, hours.
Yeah, hours upon hours. So all I can say is you ever get on the phone with this guy, you better chalk out about 3 hours of your day. It's going to be a great conversation. Great conversation. Please give a wonderful, warm welcome, not just allegedly Dave. He is Dave. Mr. Dave Marsh. Thank you. So, Dave Murphy. Dave Murphy. Sorry, Murph.
No, I'm done.
Dude,
I'm done.
Sorry. I told myself, don't say Dave Marsh. Dave's out there giggling right now. He gave me $50 to say that. So pay up, sucker. I'm sorry, Dave Marsh.
It's okay.
Dave Marsh, everybody. Dave Murphy.
I'm good. Hello, everyone. I think you can do better now. I demand audience participation. All right, that's more like it. That's more like it. It's more like it. Hello, everyone. I'm Dave. I was going to do a different presentation. It was going to be called Beyond the Flat Earth, and it was going to go the whole truth journey that I've been on. But that would have gone into what I've been sort of studying just lately. And some of you might know I've done a video called Exposing Jesus, which has ruffled a few feathers. So I thought I've made a few waves enough for 1 week. So I've given you a safe presentation this time. Yeah. So I know that people. Somebody's already done a Flat Earth 101. And there was a presentation about gravity, but so be it. The point is that I've just done a video called Flat Earth 101: The Search for the Curvature. So this was going to be the next presentation, the next video that I was going to make, and it's called The Gravity of Droppity. Okay. Now the word droppity, I just made it up, like our opponents have done. They keep making up words, so I think I can make up a word, yeah? So what droppity is, it's the tendency for things to fall when you let go of them. Because what's going on is that they're confusing this thing called gravity with the tendency of things to fall when you let go of them, okay? And that's where the confusion is, and I'm going to try and dispel that confusion and, sort of create a new word, droppity, okay? Now, along the way, I want to do something else a bit different called flat rolling, okay? Anybody here, I can't tell, I can't see, but anybody know what Rick rolling is? Yeah? Well, anybody doesn't know what Rick rolling is? Okay, I'll just quickly let you know, Rick rolling is... there was a guy in a British singer called Rick Astley, and he sounds like Luther Vandross, but when he comes out on stage, he's a weedy, ginger-looking guy, and he can't dance to save his life. But he had a one-hit wonder, Never Gonna Give You Up, and for some reason, some people decided to make kind of clickbait videos. And as soon as you start watching them, get interested in them, start watching them, and all of a sudden it's never going to give you up, and that's it. So that was known as Rick rolling. So I want to do something called flat rolling, all right? And you'll see when I get to it, you'll see what I'm talking about. But if you see it coming, let me know, yeah? Okay. So as I said, the gravity of droppity, okay? So we're going to start with Uncle Neil and see what he says.
This is Star Talk.
What is gravity?
You have no idea. Okay, next question.
Wow.
No, here's the difference. We can describe gravity. We can say what it does to other things. We can measure it, predict with it. But when you start asking like what it is, I don't know.
So did I accidentally ask a deeper question than I meant to?
Yeah, no, you were meant to ask deep questions.
Apparently I was.
In life. So to say, what is it? I think Einstein, in an Einsteinian answer, we would say gravity is the curvature of space and time. And objects will follow the curvature of space-time, and we interpret that as a force of gravity. That's probably the best answer I can give to a what is gravity question, or why is there gravity. That's the best I can do there. I think that's a good start. And I can also say that Einstein noted that matter tells space how to curve, space tells matter how to move.
Yeah, so that was Uncle Neil. And so what was Neil actually saying there? Okay, he was saying that he doesn't actually know what droppity is. Has no idea what droppity is. Okay, he said he can describe it. He can, what it does to other things. Basically, it makes things fall. We can do that. Yeah, he can measure it, and they can predict with it. If you let go of something, it'll drop. Well, okay, that's cool. But he's saying that gravity is a curvature of space-time. Yeah. So that when matter is in space, it curves this thing called space-time, but yet they still don't know what the actual thing is that is droppity. Okay. So this is Isaac Newton, and his idea was that two objects, right, will exert, with a mass, will exert a mutually attractive force, proportional to the mass of each object. Okay, so you can see there that the moon is being attracted with a greater force. Was it the greater force? Oh yeah, the moon is being attracted by a greater force, and the Earth is attracting the moon. Well, you get the picture anyway. And this is Isaac Newton. Now he formulated his ideas, with this huge tome called Principia Mathematica, massive book in which he created a whole branch of mathematics, a new branch of calculus, right, to support his claims of this force, and it's been hailed for like 200 years as a masterpiece of mathematical perfection, okay, but once we got sort of new technology or newer technology, they started to realize that his theory didn't really hold up. These calculations weren't right. So that's why Einstein had to come along, which means that everything in that book was bullshit. Seriously, if it didn't work, it's bullshit. I could come up with my banana theory, okay, that will tell the movements of these planet things because of the shape of the banana. Yeah, I can extrapolate the movement of the planets from the shape of the banana. Well, it's possible actually, because the shape of the banana is down to the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio, and so are the shapes of everything else in this universe. So I could come up with some maths that would mean that the shape of a banana will predict the movement of the planets. But it would be wrong, and it would be bullshit, just like Newton. So this is what replaced Newton's ideas, It was Albert Einstein saying that the presence of matter warps space, or warps the fabric of space-time. This is something he came up with, space-time. Right? It's very important, that. Okay, so literally the lines of space actually curves, so that if you try and go in a straight line near something sort of massive, your straight line will be curved one. Okay, and this is the way that they've always sort of presented it to us. And I'll give a little video.
Relativity, the explanation for gravity is that matter bends space. And so you put mass in a place in space, it warps space-time, and objects are not feeling a force of gravity, they're just following the natural curvature. And so this is a sheet of Lycra. Where do you get this? This is my old bike shorts. No, there's literally a spandex.com. You can get a sheet like this if you buy the sale stuff, so you don't care what it looks like, right? For like $20, maybe less, depending on the sale. And so you put matter and it warps space-time. And so if I have another object, it also warps space-time. They feel that and they're attracted to each other. And so that's Einstein's picture of gravity. Objects warp space-time, feel that curvature, and move accordingly. And if you have more mass,
You're right there. On that.
oh, if you have more mass, it's going to bend space-time more. And so if you have objects here, they are going to respond to that, right? And so you put something there, now it's attracted. Now, in reality, that big mass would feel the warping of space-time by the marble too, right? It would move a little bit, but we usually ignore that. You know, the Earth makes the sun move a little bit, but it's so small you can ignore it. The moon makes the Earth kind of wobble around a point 3/4 of the way from the center of the Earth. We usually don't account for that when we're looking at satellite motion. Well, instead of just letting go of one, what if I give it a sideways push? Now it orbits. Now it's losing energy, which wouldn't happen in the solar system, right? Not noticeably. There's some perturbations from other planets and things, but this one does lose energy and spirals in. If I don't push it as hard, it will do an ellipse for a while anyway. And
So, does anyone see a problem with this? Okay. Well, the problem I see is that model includes Droppity. Yeah. The thing is, you know, the warping of space or space-time, yeah, is literally just showing a moving object where to go, but it doesn't actually move the object. Yeah, because Einstein got rid of this mysterious force. Yeah, there's no force now. Yeah, so literally that object, the little marble on this diagram. Yeah, if you just okay, we'll do a little scenario. All right, if we had that trampoline thing, okay, exact same trampoline thing, and we had it in a weightless environment. Not that one exists, but you know, we'll assume a weightless environment. Okay. Well, the bowling ball or whatever it is in the middle, well, we can't have that because it wouldn't make a depression. There'd be nothing there to pull it down, right? Right? For crying out loud. Anyway, right? So there'd be nothing there to pull it down, so it wouldn't make an impression in the trampoline. So you'd have to pull it down from the middle and make a dip, okay? So if you put the marble in this weightless environment, you put the marble on the edge of the dip, it would stay there. Because there's nothing to say, there's nothing in that model to say what would make that ball move. Does everybody get that? Am I making? Yeah? So that's the total the reason why that model doesn't work. Yeah? Even in sort of free space with this huge Earth, right? This model only works if something is already moving and it will follow a curved path. Yeah, if you just place something there, it won't actually move. So it's just like if I've got this little torch here thing, right? If Einstein's model worked, right, I should be able to let go of this torch and nothing happened. Yeah, I'd have to push it down and then it would follow a path because everything here, the lines of force will be aimed downwards. Yeah, does everybody get that? I mean, okay. Okay, well, they're tough. I know, but if you extrapolate it out, right, to a 3D model, it still doesn't tell you how it would move things. It still needs droppity. It still needs some force to get it move. No, actually, it doesn't. It doesn't. Okay. So, there was this experiment called LIGO. Okay, that just recently, claimed that it proved Einstein. Okay. Now, LIGO is essentially a kind of facility with two arms that go out at 90 degrees from each other. Okay, and it's supposed to actually detect what's called gravitational waves. Okay, so I'm going to let Brian Cox explain what a gravitational wave is. I don't know if I have to start this.
What do you mean by what happens as a wave goes through the space-time?
Do you want me to incorporate that into the
Yeah,
answer?
no, but I just want to know. That's the bit we're not touching. You're telling me about squeezing and stretching.
Yeah.
I want to know, take me one simple.
All right, so as a wave came through here, the space here would expand and contract, and expand and contract, expand and contract. It would be a moving, stretching, and squashing of space. That's what it is.
So if you took flat, if you made something into a bend, you've actually stretched it, and now you're moving that bend through the space-time.
No, you're not moving anything through the space-time. Space and time. Space-time is squashing, stretching, and squashing. It's not moving through it. Well, it's a moving stretch and squash. So the space here stretches and squashes, stretches and squashes. It's moving along.
I can't see that as a wave.
Tough.
Help me make that into a wave. As a wave comes through, does the top bit compress and the bottom bit stretch?
Are you being weird now? Are you trying?
No, I'm trying to work out the wave. I need to go back one step. You can't just tell me the wave comes through and this happens and that happens. Why? Because when I sit on a wave, my board gets pushed forward. What is a wave?
Yeah, that's because you want to actually describe what a wave is in a sentence.
No, just saying that when a wave comes through, what happens? Does this bit get squashed and this bit gets stretched?
No.
No.
No,
So
that's not what a wave is.
Well, what is a wave?
A water wave
No,
is
a
exactly.
wave.
A wave is a disturbance that moves, right? But it's exactly the same as a water wave. What happens in a water wave is not that something moves, doesn't move. The water molecules go up and down. It's the same as a sound wave, right? The sound waves don't move air, right? Okay. They vibrate transverse to the direction of motion.
So now how? So that is a distortion.
It's very difficult to explain. In this section, you don't want to speak about gravitational waves.
No, I want to know what a ripple in space-time would mean to this sandwich.
That's it.
I know that's it, but I need one.
This
like
is a scientist.
AZ. There you go. That's the alphabet.
It's not.
I need a bit in the middle.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right. Just couple of seconds.
Right. If you want me to explain what a wave is, then I'll explain what a wave is. But to me, it's obvious. If you say what I've just said that ripples in space and time move out. I've said this. So if I move, ripples expand out. Just like if I do swimming pool and I swim, waves go out. So if one of those waves comes through here, what happens? Space and time stretch and stretch. It moves through. So it passes through here. That does that, and that does that. Why is that not obvious?
I understand.
Can someone else other than him tell me that this is incorrect?
Me, Brian. I'll tell you it's incorrect. I'll tell it. Me. That'll be me. Okay. So this is how LIGO is supposed to work. Okay. You got these two arms, and I've got the these kind of gravitational wave coming in from one direction here. Okay. So what happens is a laser is fired to a beam splitter, and that laser is split into two beams. Okay. It bounced off a mirror at both ends of these two arms, comes back, is recombined and projected onto a screen. Now, if the laser light on both arms comes back at the same time, you just see a splodge of light on the screen, okay? But if a gravitational wave comes through in one direction and, compresses one arm, okay, then that laser will come back slightly quicker than the other one, and there'll be an interference pattern on the screen. Got it? Yeah? Everyone got it? Okay. Okay, so the problem is, okay, that it's not a compression of space. It's a compression of space-time. And one of the central tenets of Einstein's theory is that when time is compressed, or space is compressed, then time slows down, so the speed of light stays exactly the same. Does anybody sort of understand that, this was a central thing about Einstein's theory, that the speed of light stays the same no matter what for all observers? Yeah, but if space contracts, time slows down, so the speed of light stays the same. So, if a gravitational wave goes down one arm and compresses that arm, time will slow down for that arm as well. The laser will come back at exactly the same time. You'll never, ever, ever detect a gravitational wave. So it literally disproves Einstein, okay? Literally, no, there's no way that could have proved it. So I know it's a bit sort of sciencey and stuff, but I'm sure. But it doesn't matter where it is. The fact is, it literally goes against Einstein's theories. Doesn't matter. It's bullshit. Literally, it can't work. And the whole thing about gravity, okay, to make it work, you have to have the biggest fudge factor of all time. Literally, to make this cosmology work with this gravity idea, you have to assume, 22% of stuff that you can't see, okay? You also have to assume 74% of energy that does the opposite of gravity. Yeah, it pushes things apart. The biggest fudge factor of all time. Black holes, the only black hole that NASA has ever found, okay, is the money that we pour into it. Does anybody been to Las Vegas? Do you know what you're seeing here? What you're seeing here is the mirage. You've been flat rolled. Now you get it, yeah? Okay, watch out for it. Okay. So now we're going to go for a quick crash course in how to spot a liar. Okay. Now, the brain's a very clever thing, and it kind of betrays itself a lot of the time. So the only interesting part of this image here is when you're constructing a lie, when you're constructing an image in your head, okay, you'll tend to look up and to the right. Okay, so when you're trying to think of some sort of construct something in your head, right, you'll look up and to the right. If you're literally trying to recall an image, you'll look up and to the left. That's a kind of rule of thumb. Okay. Another way of telling if somebody's lying, because the body wants to say, I'm lying. So when you're lying, sometimes you put your hand over your mouth, yeah, or do this sort of touching your nose gesture. Okay? Everybody got that? Right, because now you're experts at telling if somebody's lying or not. Okay? So now we're going to go back to have a look at what Neil says.
What is gravity?
You have no idea. Okay, next question.
Wow.
No, here's the difference. We can describe gravity. We can say what it does to other things. We can measure it, predict with it. But when you start asking, like, what it is, I don't know.
So did I accidentally ask a deeper question than I meant to?
Yeah, no, you were meant to ask deep questions.
Apparently I was.
In life. So to say, what is it?
See that? So right there, he is constructing an image.
I think Einstein, in an Einsteinian answer, we would say gravity is the curvature of space.
Do you see that?
And objects will follow the curvature of space-time, and we
there you go.
interpret that as a force of gravity. That's probably the best answer I can give to a what is gravity question, or why is there gravity. That's the best I can do there. I think that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a good start. And I can also say that Einstein noted that matter tells space how to curve. Space tells matter how to move.
That's it. Guy's a liar. That's it. He can't say anything else. So, when describing gravity, it's known as a weak force. Yeah, out of all the forces, it's supposedly a weak force. And this idea of, the magnet picking up paper clips is a standard experiment to show how weak gravity is. The fact that a small magnet can actually overcome, the entire Earth pulling down on these paper clips. Yeah? So I wonder if there's anything else that can show that can overcome gravity in exactly the same way.
There is a story that's been on our list for a long time. I've always wanted to test it. The myth is that a standard household vacuum cleaner has enough suction to lift a car. Come on, baby! Now, I figured that the trick to this is to make the mother of all attachments, to increase the surface area of the vacuum cleaner's input so that the amount of suction I create exceeds the weight of the car, and thus I can get it off the ground.
So what you're trying to say is that as far as the attachment goes, size matters.
Indeed it does.
To find out if this impossible-sounding tall tale can be true, the guys are starting small, with a standard vacuum and hose trying to lift a 5-pound weight, which eventually it does.
Okay, so that's just barely enough to hold on to that 5 pounds.
It is. Our previous method was what we call the octopus arm method, and it involved many different caps distributed across the whole of the car, and that turned out to be completely 100% wrong. So now we are going with a method we call the box method. I don't know how do we come up with these names, but it's just a gift. Yeah. Instead of 40 points of failure, we now have 3. 3 big, sturdy wooden boxes made out of plywood, sealed with a gasket between them and the car. We pull a vacuum from them with the manifolds. I think this is going to work. We're going to build some boxes. We're going to lift this car. These boxes are best to be thought of as the workers we are using to lift the car. So far here, all 3 boxes are saying, hell yeah, I can lift that car.
Well, to find out, it's back to Treasure Island for some predictable preparation.
Looks really nice.
First, the guys position the steel cradle above the car.
I think that looks good. It's right over the rear view mirror.
Then they add the boxes to the trunk.
A little more, a little top. Perfect.
Roof.
Yeah, that's tight.
And hood.
Nice.
Next, they secure the boxes to the cradle.
I think we're good.
With that, the guys bring in the crane.
That's good.
Before Adam adds the vital ingredient, the vacuum cleaner.
Starting the vacuum in 3, 2, 1.
But with the vacuum on, the news is good.
It's climbing.
It's climbing?
Yeah.
As the crane takes up the slack.
Come on, baby. Hold on to this car.
The car does start to rise.
Yes, it's off the ground. This freaking car is off the ground. This is amazing. Oh, dude. We are lifting a car with nothing but a single vacuum.
Remember, the crane is lifting the steel cradle.
Holy. There you go. That's about how we're feeling here.
But it's the vacuum cleaner on its own
This is every bit as satisfying as I was hoping it would be.
that's sucking the cradle to the car.
That is freaking awesome!
And to prove just that, once the car is maxed out, Jamie's going to pull the plug on the cleaner.
3, 2, 1.
Oh!
That was very satisfying.
Oh, that was awesome. Woo! So, and if anyone needs to lift a car with a vacuum, don't call us. We've done it once. We don't want to do it again.
Who would think a vacuum cleaner was hiding so much suction power?
I know. Cool story.
Thanks.
So there you go. A standard vacuum cleaner, yeah, with creating a vacuum that's way, 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 way less than the vacuum of space, yeah, was able to lift a car right on the surface of the Earth where, you know, the vacuum is, or the so-called gravity is the strongest, yeah, in exactly the way that a magnet lifts paper clips, yeah? So why isn't the Earth like that? Yeah, because the only thing that's stopping this vacuum taking the air away is gravity, and we've just seen that gravity is too weak to withstand a vacuum. So, does anybody know what this is? It is Photoshop, but it has to be. You've been flat rolled again. So, could Droppity actually be density and buoyancy? Yeah, this is a standard kind of image that shows the different kind of liquids sort of layering itself and various things, you know, on those liquids being held up just by, you know, buoyancy. So there's a little thought experiment I'd like you to do, okay? So imagine an empty gas bottle, you put it on a scale and zero out that gas bottle, okay? And you fill it with 10 pounds of helium, okay? And you fill a balloon with that 10 pounds of helium, okay? So when that person standing there with a balloon with 10 pounds of helium and a 10-pound weight, let's go, what's going to happen? Well, obviously, yeah? But the thing is, that helium weighs 10 pounds. We've just done it, you know, experimentally. Weighs 10 pounds. But literally, it's buoyancy, okay? And I would bet that if you measured the speed that balloon went up, it would be 9.8 meters per second. Yeah? Does that make sense to anybody? Am I just talking? Yeah. So Droppity is density and buoyancy. I don't know if anyone's seen this. An anvil being floated in a bath of mercury. Yeah, standard anvil. Yeah, floating like a log. It's pretty amazing. I couldn't believe it when I saw this. It's amazing. So that mercury was able to lift that anvil. So, can we trust NASA? I just come across this story. It was from earlier on this year. Okay, NASA budgets for a trip to the moon, but not while Trump is president. Does anybody want to go to the moon? I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. But we can't. I'm sorry, you've been rolled again. Sorry. Okay, so let's see how NASA fakes microgravity, okay? They've got 3 methods, yeah? Method 1 is harnesses, wires, green screen. Okay, this is the cheapest method they've got, so they use it a lot. It means that they can do live sequences. Right? They can do unlimited duration. They can bob up and down for as long as they like, and they can put in multiple CGI elements. I don't know if you saw the one with the astronaut, and she's sitting there, and all of a sudden she says, "Oh, I need some kind of prop," and all of a sudden a stuffed toy appears. Yeah, multiple CGI elements, real-time CGI editing. Yes, they can actually CGI out all the harnesses and wires, in real time. The other thing about this is there's no background noise. It's not necessary. One of the other things that's wrong with it is they can't do complicated motions. They can't sort of, fly around each other and do-si-do each other and that sort of thing, okay, because they're on wires. Yeah, there's multiple green screen glitches and also compositing errors, and gravity still is in effect, or Droppity is still in effect. So let's see how, I think it's how the NASA actually uses it. So we've all seen this.
We're gonna have to do something for you.
Oh yeah, I can do that. Watch this. Oh yeah, I can do that. Oh yeah, I can do that. Oh yeah, I can do that. Watch this.
I think everyone's seen
this as well. Thank you very much again. Thank you for your time. Have a good flight and many more exciting experiments on the orbit. Thanks a lot.
It's where they think everyone's stopped watching now, and they turn off that layer. And you can see the green screen by where that guy's hand was.
That concludes the event.
And they cut away very quickly.
Thank you very much again. Thank you for your time. Have a good flight and many more exciting experiments on the orbit. Thanks a lot.
So take note here that these are foreground objects on a separate video channel, because when it glitches, you can see everything else around it is absolutely fine. Just those elements start glitching.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event.
Het is hetzelfde toilet als bij de Rus, maar interessante systemen. Hier achter deze panelen wordt de urine opgevangen en
So obviously drop that screw.
En
here's another one. I don't know if you've seen this, but watch
Tonight
carefully.
our Earth will have completed another orbit around the sun, and now we take stock of what we accomplished over the past year and what we hope to accomplish in the year ahead.
Watch near that guy's head, the one who was just talking.
As we look back at the achievements of the past year, 2008 was the year when the space station became international.
Did you catch it?
As we look
There we
back
go.
at the achievements of the past year, 2008
Did you get
was
it?
the year when the space station became
There was
international.
water dripping in the background. Yeah, so there was obviously Droppity there. And this is how, the film industry does it. And this is from Gravity. And you can see Sandra Bullock, who I used to fancy before I realized, well, I'm not going to go there. I might as well say I call her Sandra Bullock now, but that's an English joke, by the way. See, she looked pretty natural on those wires. Yeah, and I think a lot of the training these astronauts have is how to do wire work. So method 2, zero-G aircraft, okay? The thing about this, the limitation here is it's a 30 to 60 second duration. Yeah, they can only hold that course for 30 to 60 seconds, okay? And everything in the scene is weightless, so that's a good plus for them, okay? But the problem is it must be pre-recorded. They can't do anything live because of these cuts. Now, there's also a moderate amount of background noise. Obviously, it's a plane, so it's going to be a bit of noise. There's also these strange motions where at the start and the end of one of their parabolic motions, yeah? Because at the start, you'll see things will spontaneously start to lift. And at the end, they'll just drop, okay? Also, it's a time-consuming and very expensive process, so they don't use it an awful lot. So here's an example of them actually using it, and I think I might have to start.
The question is, if you get a cloth dripping wet without gravity and you wring it out, what's going to happen? What will happen to a wrung out cloth? So, and I had to use equipment that was here on board the space station. We may have the coolest washcloths ever here on the space station. I'm going to show you. Here's one of our washcloths. And it's compacted. It's put down into this little tiny hockey puck so that it saves space. But when you open up a hockey puck and you pull out your washcloth, this is the one I'm going to use for the experiment today.
So that was the first cut.
And so when you open up your hockey puck and turn it into a washcloth, it was compressed in a great big vise somewhere. Okay, so here's my washcloth, like a magic trick. And now I'm going to get this soaking wet, and then we're going to see what will happen when we wring it out. Meredith and Kendra suggested that I dip this in a bag, but bags don't hold water in space. So instead, I filled a water bag. This has drinking water in it.
Bags don't hold water in space.
And I'm going to squirt a bunch of water into this washcloth. Okay, so here's a soaking wet washcloth. Get the microphone so you can hear me while I'm talking. And now let's start wringing it out. It's really wet.
Bearing in mind, there's no reason why they shouldn't do one signal continuous shot.
It's becoming a tube of water.
And again, another cut.
The water's all over my hands. In fact, it wrings out of the cloth into my hands. And if I let go of the cloth carefully, the water sort of has it stick to my hand. Okay, so the experiment worked beautifully. And the answer to the question is the water squeezes out of the cloth. And then because of the surface tension of the water, it actually runs along the surface of the cloth and then up into my hand, almost like you had Jell-O on your hands or gel on your hand, and it'll just stay there. Wonderful moisturizer on my hands. And the cloth doesn't really unravel itself. It just stays there floating like a dog's chew toy, soaking wet. Great experiment, worked perfectly. Meredith and Kendra, congratulations, great idea.
Why is this an experiment on the ISS? Why have we not seen actual real experiments? You know, why do we see all these like PR exercises? You know, what has ever come out of the ISS? You know, billions of dollars apparently making this thing, and nothing's come out of it for, well, how many years is it now? 20, 30 years? But yeah, so you can see, they can't do one continuous shot. They have to cut it up in segments because the zero-G plane has to make its maneuver. So this is well, this is actually a music video, okay? You know, some of you might have seen this, but I'm going to play the whole thing because it's really cool. But watch for the times when the start and the end of the parabolic flight. You'll see things start to rise up at the start and then fall at the end. Has anyone seen this? Yeah.
Upside out, you feel it. Don't know where your eyes are, but they're not doing what you said. Don't know where your mind is, babe, but you're better off without it. Inside down and upside out, you can feel it. Don't stop, can't stop till you feel it go down. I wish I had said the things you thought that I had said. Gravity's just a habit that you're pretty sure you can't.
Without the drop there.
So when you met the new you, were you scared? Were you cold? Were you kind? Yeah, when you met the new you, did someone die inside? Don't stop, can't stop, it's like a freight train. Don't stop, can't stop until you feel it go down. Don't know where your eyes are, but they're not doing what you said. Don't know where your mind is, baby, but you're better off without it. Looks like it's time to decide. Are you
Drop right there.
Are you now? Is this it?
But you notice also that there's not much of a gap between the drop and the period of weightlessness.
Cause you're upside down and inside out, you can feel it. Inside down and upside out, you can feel it, feel it. Don't stop, can't stop, it's like a freight train. Don't stop, can't stop till you feel it go down. I wish I had said the things you thought that I had said. Gravity's just a habit that you're pretty sure you can't break. Upside down and inside out, you can feel it. Don't stop, can't stop till you feel it go down. Upside down and inside out, you can feel it. Don't stop, can't stop till you feel it go down.
Sorry, I just like that video. It's quite cool. So the third method is called diamagnetic levitation. Yeah, we're taught about one type of magnetism. Yeah, it's paramagnetism. Yeah, that a magnet will attract iron objects and attract and repel other magnets. But there's this other type of magnetism called diamagnetism. Okay, and literally, if you've got a strong enough a magnetic field, you can literally levitate anything: wood, plastic, humans, frogs, whatever. Yeah. So everything in the scene will be levitated. When they use it, when NASA uses it, they levitate everything. So that's quite attractive. Yeah. They can do long duration shots and continuous ones. Not like the zero-G plane. And they're very realistic, absolutely realistic. And they can also be live, okay? So it's very, very attractive for NASA to use this. But it does suffer with a very, very loud background noise, okay? And we'll see why in a few minutes. And it's, again, very expensive to use, so they don't use it very often. So let's see NASA using it.
Yeah.
Could you imagine working and living in this environment with that noise? Even though it's they're using a cardioid
Here we are
light.
in the U.S. laboratory. Again, this is a laboratory with science experience on all of the walls here, all sorts of stuff that we do. And one of the things we also do is we exercise. We have some exercise equipment on board the space station. We need to do that because we lose bone density and muscle mass while we're up here, and that's a result of not having to fight against gravity. So how we keep ourselves in shape are with a bike, a treadmill, and a weightlifting machine. This is the bike. You notice the clipped pedals. So all you need to do is actually clip your feet.
Because this woman makes me sick anyway. So this is what's an experiment that shows this diamagnetic levitation in action. This is a levitating frog. With the next one, you'll hear the noise, the background noise.
Oh, great. This is a nice Yeah, this is it. Actually, don't walk, don't touch anything, please.
Is the noise coming out? Can you hear it? Yeah, it's because in order to generate a large magnetic field, you need a lot of power and you need a lot of cooling as well. Okay, so that's why when they do these long shots of tours around the ISS, it's very, very noisy.
There is no problem with putting a man to force a man by this magnetic levitation to fly in the air. So technically, we can do it with you without any problems. We put it here. Let's put it here.
So he says,
as you see,
no problem doing it with humans.
Alive and moving.
And he's showing that the frog is unharmed because it literally all the molecules in your body are being levitated at the same time, so it doesn't affect you. So now that we know Droppity is really density and buoyancy, this opens up some very, very exciting possibilities. Okay. Now there's an experiment that many of us have probably seen already, where you heat up a magnet and it loses its magnetism, and then when it cools, it regains it and it's magnetic again. But if you treat a magnet in a certain way, I'm not going to go into the details. Treat it in a certain way, you get a very, very strange effect. So we're going to have a look at that now. So they've heated up an ordinary magnet, and the treated one is at the back there. And you'll see as it cools, well, the first one goes, but the second one, okay, it doesn't go when it cools down. So you have to watch very carefully for this effect, okay? And there's a sound. There's also a sound you've got to be careful to listen out for. Right? Be very careful and listen out. Any minute now, any second now. Thank you for watching. I had to do it, I'm sorry. Have we lost Rick again? Oh, okay. I was going to tell jokes until you come.
Dave Murphy, everybody! We're no strangers to you.
I was going to play it longer and dance along with it. No,
well, you know the rules, and so do I.